Welcome back to another automation breakdown where we break down automated solutions for your business needs. I'm your host, Chris. So today's video really comes from my calendar and how many freaking online Teams meetings I get during the week, and having an automated report come to my email every day where I recap all of the things that happened today. So in this case, I had 3.5 hours of meetings today. My first meeting was at 10:30 a.m. and my last meeting ended at 5 p.m. I mean, at some point, I really had to capture how many meetings I was having during the day, and this was a way for me to get that recap without manually counting every single meeting. How many minutes was it? I mean, we can really thank 2020 for all of those meetings that we get nowadays, especially those ones that, well, should have been an email.
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they didn't stop to think if they should.
But I mean, at the end of the day, capturing how many meetings you had either today, this week, this month, whatever that is, and really showing all of those hours that, again, really should have been an email. At least I can give you that information. So let's hop into Power Automate. While on the Power Automate homepage, let's go over to Create. I'm going to Scheduled Flow and I'll give my flow a name. I'm going to have it start tomorrow and every single day at, let's say, 5 p.m. And once a day, this flow will run. And let's go ahead and create. And now that our trigger is established as recurrence, let's go ahead and add in our next action, which would be get calendar view of events. Underneath the Office 365 Outlook, we see the get calendar view of events action. The calendar ID will allow you to choose which calendar you want. In this case, I want my regular calendar. Now we need to come up with the start time and end time, and this is where we get into some complications. The value it's expecting is the UTC, or the Universal Time Clock, basically the computer's time zone. So me, I live in California. My time zone would be in Pacific Standard Time, whereas the computer needs it translated to UTC. So we're going to need to translate it from UTC to Pacific Standard Time for me, and then from Pacific Standard Time back into UTC. All right, without confusing you any more than I probably have, we're going to add an action between recurrence and get calendar view of events, and I'm going to add in a compose action. This compose, I will retitle to now. In the inputs, inside of the expressions, I will add in UTC now. The next action after the new compose action we just made is convert time zone. Underneath date and time, clicking on convert time zone. Now we are going to take our base time, which will be from our dynamic content, and the outputs from our compose action called now. The source time is going to be UTC. Again, for me, this will be Pacific time. For you, it could be something else. Now, after this, I will add in two more compose actions. The first compose action will be our start time. And this start time, we will plug into the start time inside of the get calendar view of events. And then, of course, the compose to, this will be our end time, which again, we will throw inside of the get calendar view of events. So the convert time zone converted our UTC into our, in this case, Pacific Standard Time. The start time will be the beginning of today. So the very first second that this day has, we will add in our expression. Format date time, going over to dynamic content and the converted time from the converted time zone, comma, single quotes, and inside the single quotes, we will add in the year, month, day, and then the time of 000. Meaning, again, we're getting the very first second of today. Add. Now, inside of this end time, we're going to do something very, very similar, but this time, what we're going to do is we will add days. And inside of the dynamic content, we will go over to converted time, comma, and how many days do we want to add? 1 day. We're essentially going to take the next day and the first second of the next day. So with this expression in mind, at the beginning of this, now I will convert the time zone of all of this, comma, into the same format that we did for the start time, and I will end the parentheses. You could obviously take it and subtract 1 second. So technically it'd be from the beginning of the day to the exact end of the day, but I don't want to be that extra. This would be the start time, notated in Pacific Standard Time, and this would be the end time again, notated in Pacific Standard Time. Inside of this Get Calendar view of events, under the start time, I will add in the following expression. We will use convert time zone, and from our dynamic content of the start time, we will convert the time zone inside dynamic content, go over to our start time, comma, inside of single quotes, I will write in Pacific Standard Time, comma, and inside single quotes, UTC. So again, we've converted it from UTC to, in my case, Pacific Standard Time, just to get the start and end point of today. Now we're translating those points right back into UTC. The end time, we will do the same thing. Our function will be convert time zone, go over to our dynamic content, end time, comma, in single quotes, Pacific Standard Time converted into UTC. And let's go ahead and add. Now, this is the output of our Get Calendar view of events. And right here, you see this is our first event between the curly brackets. And this will be our monthly client meeting dash supervisor. And this is our second event of the day, monthly client meeting dash engineering. We have the start time of this event, the end time of this event. We also have, is this an all day event, true or false? The response type, which will be organizer in my case, because I'm the one who's organizing it. It will either say accepted, denied. So now what we can do is our start time, we're going to snag in what's the very first time of meetings of the day, and the end time, what's the very last time of the meeting of the day. We're also going to take our end time minus the start time. That'll give us how long the meeting was. And we're going to just add up all of the times throughout the day. Okay, so back inside of this, our next action after Get Calendar view of events, we are going to open up some variables. Underneath our variable action, we have initialize variable. The first one will be var total time, our variable of total time. We're just going to, again, add up all of the time throughout the day and just put that in our email output. The type, this will be an integer, and we are going to start off this integer at 0. And I'm also going to copy and paste the title so that we know this is our var total time. Our next action, next we're going to open up another variable. So let's initialize another variable.
Another one.
This will be our var start time and a string variable. And the value we're just going to leave blank. We'll fill this in as the process continues. And once again, I'm just changing the initialize variable title to var start time. And we'll open up one more variable,
Another one.
which initialize variable, our last one, and this will be our var end time. Once again, string variable, leave the value blank, and I'm just going to paste that as the title. Let's go ahead and add in our next action. Underneath built-in tools, I will go ahead and do apply to each. We're going to loop through all of the events that happened today. So going over to our dynamic content, snag in the body slash value of the Get Calendar view of events. Now that we're going to, again, loop through all of these events, let's go inside of the apply to each, add in our next action, which this one will be increment variable. So it's another variable here.
Another one.
And we will choose our var total time. This is a new function if you really haven't worked with time inside of Power Automate before, but we have ticks, kind of the ticking on a clock, right? So tick, 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 tick. Ticks will translate this into nanoseconds. So this will give us a number we can use to add or subtract or even divide later on in this. So the ticks of our underneath dynamic content go to our end time. This is the numerical form of the end time. And we are going to subtract the ticks of the end time, comma, the ticks of our start time. So again, we're saying the end of the meeting time minus the beginning of the meeting time, and our parentheses there. Now, we're going to take all of this and then we are going to divide it by 600 million. That's 600,000,000. Again, we converted this to nanoseconds, so as we divide it out, we're putting it right back into where it needs to be. And just so you get a better look of what's going on in here, inside of our variable, we now have a 30-minute meeting. Go to our second meeting of the day, which is another 30-minute meeting. Our third meeting of the day, another 30-minute meeting. And our fourth meeting of the day, which is 120 minutes. I added an extra compose out here, which all of that added together is 210. So the maths, and let's move on. So now we will work on getting the smallest time of the day. And to work with that, I am going to add in under our controls a condition. And the first thing we're going to do is add our var start time is equal to blank. If it's blank, under the true section, we will add in underneath variables, set variable.
Another one.
And the name will be the var start time. And let's go ahead, the value under dynamic content, we will add in the start time. Now, as Power Automate is looping through our next item, the first item, it's asking it if it's blank. On item number 2, as these apply to each starts moving forward, it won't be blank anymore. So we will add in another condition.
Another one.
And this condition will be, let's go over to our expressions, the ticks. Again, we're using ticks inside dynamic contents, going to get calendar view of events, and our start time add is less than, and this choose the value, go over to our expressions, and this will be another ticks, go to dynamic content, var start time. So if it's less than the currently displayed var start time, we are going to, in the true section, set that variable. This will be the var start time that we are setting, and the value of this, go over to our dynamic content, adding in that start time. Let me collapse this condition, and this condition right here is getting us our start time. So I will add in another condition. This condition will say if our var end time is equal to nothing, equal to blank, we will go ahead and we will add in our set variable, and this will be our var end time. And so now let's go into under get calendar view of events, end time. Now we have officially set the variable. Under our false section, again, just like before, we will add in another condition.
Another one.
And inside of this condition, it will be underneath expressions, the ticks of our end time add is greater than, back to our expressions, the ticks of dynamic content, our var end time. If and only if that is true, let's go ahead and add in another one.
Another one.
We will set this variable var end time, and the value will be our end time under the get calendar view of events. So now we have officially snagged in all of our data. Now it's all about configuring the email output. After this whole apply to each, I'm just going to collapse that there. We will add in our next action, create HTML table. We have under data operations, create HTML table. The from will be from our body slash values of the get calendar view of events. Under advanced parameters, I'm going to choose the columns, and we're not going to have it automatic. In fact, we're going to customize this. Now the headers that I'm adding in, these are the headers that will display in the email. So the meeting title, this is actually our easiest one. Go over to our dynamic contents, and this will just be the subject. Now, if you're with me so far in this video, I hope that you are. Under length of time in hours, the value, let's go over to our expressions. We are going to subtract the ticks, go over to our dynamic contents, and our end time, comma, and the ticks from our start time. Kind of like before, we're going to divide this out by comma 600 million. I'm going to wrap this inside of a float, and then I'm going to wrap this whole thing inside of a divide, comma, and we're going to divide this by 60. Now we have our hours. Click on add number of attendees. Now, as I click on our expressions, I'm going to add in the column under dynamic content. I will just look up our required attendees. Now, this whole thing is separated out by a semicolon. So it'll be the first person's email, semicolon, the second person's email. We are going to split this whole thing, comma, inside of our single quotes by that semicolon. And we're going to count how many items there are inside of this required attendees. Again, we're splitting it by that semicolon. Okay, next action, we will add in a compose, retitling this to our table output. Inside the inputs, I will add in our function. We are going to replace inside dynamic contents our create HTML table, comma, and this is where we're swapping out some of the HTML language that the create HTML table has versus what the email needs. Inside single quotes, create HTML table has it as ampersand LT semicolon. This is how it writes less than, comma, and we are going to replace that with, inside our single quotes, the actual less than sign. Now, with all of this, I'm going to, once again, replace, comma, and we have the old language of ampersand GT semicolon. That will be the original way the create HTML table has greater than, comma, and we're going to swap that out with the greater than symbol. And our last one, we'll add in one more replace, single quotes, and this will be ampersand QUOT semicolon. This is how the original action wrote in quotes, comma, single quote, and I'm going to add in a double quote. Close out the parentheses, click on add, and you can leave it here just as is. That's totally fine. I'm going to be a little bit more fancy and add in this style around our HTML table, which if you know, you know. Here's where we have our last bit of fun. I will add in a compose. Yes, another one. Another one. Sorry that I keep adding that meme. It's like the easiest one for me to use right now. I will retitle this to length, and the inputs, let's add in an expression, the length of, under dynamic content, the body slash value of the get calendar view of events. We're counting how many items did we have in today's meeting set. With that said, we will add in a control, and this will be our last condition. Inside of dynamic content, we will add in the length is greater than 0. So if we had one or more meetings today, only run the true actions. And if we had 0 meetings today, well, we're going to leave that blank and say do, well, literally nothing. And so if we have more than one meeting today, I will send an email. Under the Office 365 Outlook, send an email. Now for the subject, I'm going to be a little fancy and say you had, go to our dynamic content, our length, you had X meetings today. And I will add in this function of format, date, time, the body of the convert time zone, comma, single quotes, and I'm just going to do month, day, add. So today's meeting, you had 5 meetings today. You had 1 meeting today on April 16th. I'm just going to say, hey, Chris, here's a recap of the log meetings today. Your first meeting started at, go over to the functions. We're going to convert our time zone and go over to our dynamic content. This will be the start time, comma, and we're translating it from UTC to Pacific Standard Time. Again, use it as you will. If it's a different time zone for you, by all means, change it. Now, we're going to format our date time around this, comma, and I'm going to say hours, minutes, space TT. And your last meeting today ended at, and let's go back into our expressions. We're going to convert the time zone of our end time from UTC to Pacific Standard Time. And we will wrap all of this inside of a format date time, comma, hours, minutes, and TT. That'll be AM or PM. The total time you spent in meetings today was, let's go into our expressions. We will use the float of dynamic content, the total time, and all of that we are going to divide this out because this is in minutes. Divide this by 60. Add in the period, add in a couple of spaces there, and here's the recap. And at the very bottom here, go into this dynamic content, and I will have the table output. Just like that, click on save. I'm going to run the flow, come back over to my emails, and there we go. You had 4 meetings today, April 16th. Hey, Chris, here's a recap of the log meetings today. First meeting was at 10:30, last meeting was at 5 p.m., and you spent a total of 3.5 hours. And here's the full-on recap in a table. You can see right here we had these 4 meetings, 30-minute, 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 and a 2-hour block. This one was a lot more of the equations today, so hopefully you kept up with it. I did my best to try and explain them and some of the rationale with it. But let me know what you think down in the comments. What could I improve on? What could you use this for? Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I will see you in the next video.